geeks, weebs, nerds, and other unfortunates have been fervently waiting for has finally arrived. It's time for TMI, Confessionals of the Nerd Kind. And now, your hosts, Jeff Nerfherder Chandler, Jim Kaiju Baker, and Christina Yojimbo Henry. You can continue. And now, let's get on with the show. Here is TMI.
I could do without the characters at all, but I don't know.
It almost looks purposely stupid, just like from the dumb getup that John Cena has on, and the shark
some people,
guy.
I did see that some people are like, yeah, John Cena is the reason I will not see it in the theater.
Yeah,
I'm like, they probably said that about The Rock as well at some point.
Yeah, is James Gunn like purposely sabotaging the DC?
You think that is good? They think it's like some brilliant work of art, and meanwhile, it's just a big advertisement for Marvel.
Yeah, his costume designer went to Michael's, and that's where they got all their.
Oh boy! All righty. Well, we do have some news. If we want to get into that eventually.
Yeah. So hold on. Are we recording? Okay. Yeah. The lady already said so.
Oh, that's right. She did. She came in.
We're in. Yeah.
Anybody who's listening doesn't realize that Zoom now tells you when you're being recorded. So
I would totally put her on the show, the Zoom voice, but she comes in before the recording actually starts. So she's never there when I listen to the playback. So unfortunately, I can't share with you what she sounds like.
Hey, I know by the time everybody listens to this, it'll be too late, but happy 4th of July, Jim.
Yes, we record this episode on the 4th of July.
Yeah, I did have to do a mass marathon this week. Oh, it was brutal. It was hot out there this week.
Yes, bad. It was. We are not even in the dog days. We're in the, what do they call these? The cat days? The mouse days?
I don't know. You know, I mean, I hate bitching because we're on the East Coast and we only had like, what, 4 days of intense heat? These poor people out west are getting destroyed.
Hey, well, this is the topic of one of our films today.
Yeah, it seems that every show or TV or movie we talk about now, it's all global warming something. It's almost like it's real. Some would have us believe otherwise. So what are we actually talking about? So let's get into this.
Yeah. So we tried to go a patriotic route, and we always try to pick new movies. So, hey, we found one with the word war in it. Hey,
what is it good for? Apparently, absolutely nothing.
The Tomorrow War.
The Tomorrow War,
starring
brand new.
America's sweetheart, Chris Pratt.
Oh, he's just one of the Chris's. Is he the lower tier Chris out of the bunch?
I think this guy is probably the number one Chris in the bunch.
Be.
If you look at all the movies and franchises he's in.
Yeah, he executive produced this.
Those other Chris's, they only got one franchise character each. This guy has multiple.
Do you remember that there was all kinds of rumors that he was going to pick up the mantle of Indiana Jones?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, he should probably step in because poor Harrison Ford's falling apart over there.
I know. Was this one of your news items that they?
No, we talked about that last week.
They delayed filming now, I'm reading.
Well, I saw Mangold actually, somebody had called him out on Twitter and he said, we're still filming.
Really? Okay. So I read that they were stopping until September.
Yeah. They could, I'm sure it's somewhere in between. They're regrouping. They're retooling the script to make sure they're going to, at some point, Indiana Jones is just going to get wrapped in bubble wrap and he'll be trapped for like 3/4 of the movie.
He'll be mummified.
Safe. I think Short Round's going to have to come back in and save this guy at some point.
So let's also talk about our second feature.
Oh, yeah, we do have 2 movies. It would make perfect sense. You would think in this world that we have not talked Independence Day yet, but we did not go that route.
We did not. And it didn't even occur to us to go that route.
Yeah.
There's always next year, right?
Yeah.
But today we're talking about Red Dawn, the original.
Yes, the 1984, not the 2012.
Never seen the remake.
No, neither have I. And after reading reviews, I will stay away.
And perhaps after this viewing of the original Red Dawn, I've doubled down on not wanting to see the remake.
And of course, we have Loki. We still have what,
We have
episode 4.
Episode 4.
Oh, we are screaming toward the end of this thing, and I have no clue what they're doing. Yeah.
Let's get into it then.
Okay.
Without
All right. So
further
let's start with some
ado.
news. July 4th news, kids. So Jim, I know you're heading to Disney, right? At some point with the family?
Yes. End of August.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. Disney and Lego had some kind of I don't know if there was an announcement of upcoming toy line or whatever. They were releasing, probably in conjunction with the Book of Boba Fett, the Slave One, which is, we all know, is Boba Fett's starship.
Yes.
Okay. Except it is no longer called Slave One. We do not refer to it as Slave One. It is now known as Boba Fett's starship. That is it. And people are all up in arms. Here we go. I guess that one of the Lego designers, he said straight up, he says, it's probably not something which has been announced publicly, but it is something that Disney does not want us to use anymore, which I get. I mean, I think the whole reason it's called Slave One is because he has like some kind of a control device that he can remote control it. So it's like a slave drive. And it's never referred to as Slave One in any of the movies. You never, it's only on the marketing for the actual toy and maybe in the novels and comic books.
Yeah, which is the case with a lot of the characters as well.
Oh,
They're never named in the films.
No, everything's got to have a name to it.
Yeah. But you know that Lucas and the creative team has named them. It's not Kenner making this stuff up.
Well, Kenner did to some degree in some of the action figures.
Oh, really?
They give
Hammerhead, Snaggletooth. Those are a little obvious, right?
Yeah, I was going to say that. Walrus Man.
Yeah.
So anyways, so this is now a thing that Boba Fett's ship is no longer referred to as Slave One.
For nostalgia's sake, because I have the Kenner vehicle of Slave One. But as a kid, you never put the connotation together, you know?
No, correct. And I guess I get it. But where do we stop? Because what was Leia when she was in that slinky little outfit, but Slave Leia? So is she now going to be referred to as Jabba's domestic goddess?
Or is the scene going to be wiped altogether? I don't like it as much as, what I knew as a kid is not going to be what future generations know.
Yeah.
This is very dicey material.
I know. But I thought it was worthy of at least discussing, because it's just, if you have the packaging with Slave One on it, is that worth, someone's going to pay ridiculous amounts of money because
just like the Gina Carano Funko Pop that I have suddenly shot up from, being worth $6 online to $70.
Yeah, but I've also heard rumors that they're courting to bring her back.
Yeah, I read those too, but I really doubt it. I
don't know. Like, right? Like, even if they're like, well, I mean, look what they did with James Gunn.
True.
Knee-jerk reaction. Dude, something you wrote 20 years ago, we now can have this.
Yeah, but this was, she wrote it.
Oh, like yesterday. It's still writing it. Yeah. Still writing it.
Still writing it.
But listen, you're going down the whole freedom of speech poll. Even if they came begging for her to come back as her, I'd be like, you know what? Nah, I am who I am, regardless. I don't care which side of the aisle you sit on. All right. So anyways, let's move on. So in good news, really good news. Do you remember the show that we covered? This was like 2 years ago now. Neil Gaiman's Good Omens.
Yes.
Amazon with David Tennant and Michael Sheen. It has been announced that season 2 is confirmed go. But we loved that show.
We
loved it.
They took their time in confirming that there's going to be a season 2.
Well,
usually this happens, the week that the season 1 drops, they confirm there's going to be a season 2.
Well, I guess basically that Neil Gaiman and Terry Pratchett, who is no longer with us, like created these characters. The first season covers the initial run of the comics plus some of the ideas that they had spurred together for a sequel in the comics, but never came about. So this season 2 will be like new territory, from what I understand. So I would guess, he'd have to be back up and running and writing and creating. But
I see.
Michael Sheen has confirmed on his Facebook page, all of his social media, that this is a go. And what's even more interesting is that it looks like the production company, this is all shooting in like the UK, I think in Scotland or something, that they have a giant sign-up sheet for internships that you can come and learn everything from being an art director assistant to gaffer or best boy.
Let's sign up. You
I
and
know,
me.
right? You no experience necessary. They will train you. So we just need to get over to the UK.
Now, this makes me think that this is a perfect opportunity because we paired Good Omens with Legend, if you remember.
That's right, we did. Yes.
We should cover season 2 and do the European
Every-
version of Legend.
That sounds like a lot of work. It is on a disc, though, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Because we watched the theatrical.
We watched the theatrical with the Tangerine Dream, and the
Tangerine
European
Dream.
has the Jerry Goldsmith soundtrack.
Tangerine Dream's the only way to go. I'm already going to poo-poo it. Sorry, cards on the table. That Tangerine Dream soundtrack is just blew my mind. All right. Well, it's going to be a while. It'll probably be another 2 years before, because it looks like they're not even going to start filming until the fall. So this I just mentioned before, Bigfoot. I got to get into this because I'm intrigued. James Ashcroft, who is an actor turned director, and he directed this movie called Coming Home in the Dark. It's a horror flick. I don't know what it is. Are you familiar with this?
Coming Home in the Dark. No.
Yeah, it's a mouthful right there. But anyways, he's signed to direct a cinematic adaptation of Max Brooks's new book that just dropped called Devolution.
Now, Max Brooks being the author of World War Z.
Yes, correct. And I want to read you this little synopsis of the book itself. And so this is actually being produced by Legendary, who has not gone astray yet with the MonsterVerse of Kong, Godzilla, Titans. So the story sees a tech-focused green community in the deep forests of Washington state that is left isolated by a natural disaster. The social structure rapidly disintegrates as the members contend first with being cut off from the modern world and then with a pack of mysterious predators who turn out to be Sasquatch creatures.
Ooh.
So is Legendary like setting me up a cryptozoological universe, a cryptoverse? Could we get like a Sasquatch movie and then maybe a little Mothman, maybe Loch Ness, and then we all come together for one big endgame battle?
And then we have like a Champy as like in the Godzuki role.
Champy. Listen, every time I'm up there in Champlain, I'm looking. But
It's me too. Yeah, I've
only
only been once.
Me sad when I go up there is that there's not more. Like they don't really embrace it. There's a car wash that has the little sea monster on it, and there is a baseball team that's called the Lake Monsters.
There is an aquarium down by the water. Champy has his own display.
Does he? I've never
His or her own display.
But I want to see like T-shirts. I want to see stuffed animals. I want to like when I went to Loch Ness, they just they leaned into this. They're like, this is why you're here.
Well, I got a magnet with Champy on them when I went last time. Yeah.
All right. Well, I'm going to have to look deeper. So I'm intrigued with this. I want to pick up this book. It just dropped last year. But the fact that it's already been picked up by Legendary and that they have a director attached, I'm very intrigued.
Like a clan of Bigfoots, like totally going primal on these tech scientists caught in the woods.
I mean, listen, there are stories. There's one out in Washington State, which is where this takes place. Actually, there's in the 20s, and the area is actually known as Ape Canyon because of this event where a bunch of guys who were gold digging or whatever were attacked by a bunch of Sasquatch-like creatures. In their cabin. Cryptoverse. Let's do it. Let's make it happen. That's all the news I have.
So, all right, let's get into Chris Pratt and the Tomorrow War.
This was 2 hours and 18 minutes. It was a long movie. That's my review. It's a long movie.
Yeah, regardless now, maybe it's just showing our age. Regardless of what the movie is, I let out a deep sigh when I start the movie and I see that it is over 2 hours. I'm like, okay, this is going to be for the long haul, this one.
Well,
I better be entertained.
The Tomorrow movie became the Tomorrow movie.
It actually became the Tomorrow.
I actually, an hour in, stopped it, went to bed, and watched the rest of it the next day. And it's on Amazon Prime. This dropped on Friday.
Yes, it did.
Just in time for the July 4th week.
And of course, like a lot of these big movies that seem like this is pretty big for Amazon Prime, it was meant for theatrical release initially.
Did you see what they paid for this?
They paid the amount of the budget for this movie.
$200 million they paid for this movie.
But yeah, it was initially set to be released on Christmas Day, 2020. But of course, theaters weren't really at full capacity at that point. So It ended up on Amazon Prime.
And I guess I didn't really pay too much attention to the trailer. And I think that probably the less you know about this going in.
They purposely withhold information from you
Yeah.
until they want you. The aliens. Well, let's get into this plot.
Yeah, that's kind of so this is directed by Chris McKay, who basically has cut his teeth on animation. He directed the Batman Lego movie.
He's all about the Lego movies that have been out.
Yeah. I think he was an editor on the original Lego movie, but he, Robot Chicken he's associated with.
And the Lego movies are lauded, and he directed, which is a great movie. I don't know if you watched Batman Lego movie,
I love it. Yeah,
it's hilarious.
And it's that's one of those things that I shied away from altogether when it originally was released because it just sounds preposterous.
On paper, it sounds terrible. Like, it could have easily gone the Emoji Movie route.
Yes, correct. Yeah.
An advertisement for Lego, but that is the farthest from the truth.
So I mean, this guy's got some chops, and this is a big movie. Yeah.
Hey, it's got Chris Pratt. That's all you got to know.
I know. Did you find it that every time I saw him on screen, I felt like he looked slightly different, like something weird was going on with him? There were some weird things going on, but so we're thrown right into it right from the beginning.
It's one of these things where they try to hook you immediately. So it's a flash forward. He's just falling out of the sky with all these other people. He's falling into a city. There's skyscrapers all around. He happens to land into the top of one of these skyscrapers that has a pool on the top.
This is a pool party gone wrong.
Yeah.
People are splatting on the damn deck. Yeah, it's kind of weird. They're all screaming.
And he's just free fall. They're not even like parachutes or lines on them.
But they all have like weapons in their hands, and it's just guys are falling on top of each other in the pool. That ever happened to you? Like you go down the slide and you're still underwater, and then another kid comes along and just like kicks you right in the freaking ear.
2 words: Action Park.
There you go. Are you saying there was no safety measures in place?
There was none. That happened every time you went to Action Park. You got 2 feet coming at you,
Do you know, I actually blew out my eardrum from that exact episode. A kid kicked me in my ear.
Ugh.
I could plug my nose and blow air out my ear. I blew my eardrum. Probably why I can't hear now. So we're introduced to Chris Pratt free falling. And like I said, there's a fair amount of guys that are just either falling all the way down to the bottom. These guys are landing on the roof of the building, somewhere in the pool. And other ones are just like kind of splatting against the damn
so you see like maybe 5 or so other people land in the pool with him,
right? Yeah.
And then suddenly boom, you're
25 years earlier. If you read the description, even without seeing the trailer, you know that this is a time travel movie. And I hate to say it, but I compared this directly to Edge of Tomorrow.
Of course. How can you not?
And I will say it right now. This is a poor man's Edge of Tomorrow, because Edge of Tomorrow is brilliantly, the editing on that movie is so superb. The pacing on this movie is off, but you can't help but like Chris Pratt. Like you said, Chris Pratt carries this movie.
His movies, Guardians being the exception, I can actually lump Guardians into this. It's a give the people what they want type of a scenario. Yes, this is a poor man's version of Edge of Tomorrow, just like Jurassic World was a poor man's version of Jurassic Park. But he manages to bring you along on the ride.
Yeah, because he's almost like he's like the everyman.
Yeah,
like you can't, and you see it right away when you flash back to this birthday party that's going on. He's kind of like this schlubby dad. It's supposed to be 2022. And yet he doesn't even have, he's still got wired earbuds. It's like you don't even own
so do I.
AirPods.
So do I.
Oh, well, see, I thought that they went out of their way to kind of make it like, all right, well, he's not that successful because he doesn't have
I still
AirPods.
have an iPod. I still use my iPod.
You have a Shuffle, a Zune?
No, it's the official Apple iPod, but I still use it.
But we're introduced to his wife and his daughter, Muri. And his
Betty
wife
Gilpin is
Betty
the
Gilpin
wife.
from The Hunt.
Yeah.
I was like, as soon as I saw that name, I'm like, where do I know her? I think she's severely underused in this.
Yeah, definitely the typical wife character, although she does have the key to the defeat of the aliens a little bit later on, but we'll get there.
There we go. It's at Christmas time because we get the waitress's Christmas wrapping song as he's like coming up, and you immediately like everything is like spelled out in this first 5 minutes, like what this guy is. His daughter gets a birthday card from his dad. He throws it in the garbage. You find out he was abandoned by his dad. He talks about that he felt like he's meant for something special to happen to him.
And he's waiting for a call because he's got a job interview. So now I was confused on what he was applying for. Was it another high school position or?
Yeah, because we find out he is a biology teacher, right?
Yes.
Yeah, it almost made it sound like it was some kind of a military, because he's
Maybe
ex-military.
it was, yeah, because
he's
ex-military.
ex-military. You do find that as well.
There's like a watching party going on in his house because they're watching the World Cup. They're watching a soccer game.
Yeah. And this is where all hell breaks loose, because all of a sudden the soccer match is interrupted by a bunch of people walking through a wormhole.
Immediately after he gets turned down for his job interview, by the way.
Yeah. Well, convenient. He needs to save the world. He can't be doing government contract.
No, he can't. Whoever's watching the World Cup is watching this on TV. So the future people choose this moment because they know that they're going to have a worldwide audience.
Don't you think that there would be a bigger venue, though? Like, I get it that soccer is popular, and it's not as popular here in the U.S. as it is across the globe. But you probably could reach more people if you just zoomed into like the filming of Kardashians or The Bachelor.
Probably, yes.
Right?
Yeah,
So I think that's a missed opportunity.
You're right, because it's a very niche market in the U.S., right? They appear on this field, but I wouldn't believe that this was real if I was watching this. I'm like, this is just
you think it's a commercial. It's like a commercial for
a new series, right?
Those people that rotate in the corner of the Fox, new show coming up.
These soldiers appear out of a cloud on the field, and they're facing down the soccer players. I'm sorry, the football players.
There you go.
And they just announced, because there's this one officer that's kind of their leader, and she announces that they're from the future. There's like an alien war, and they're here to recruit people to come back or come forward in time to help them fight the aliens. And everybody buys it immediately.
Immediately. They're like, because she's like, we are you. They're us. They're us. It's like, no, that's aliens. They're just didn't you see V? Take you into their ship and eat you. But yeah, I mean, like you said, they're fighting this future war in 2051. They're losing to these aliens, and we need recruits. You're going back in time to take schlubs into the future to fight aliens that no one else has been able to successfully kill. Shouldn't they be recruiting like scientists or military?
And you know who they should be recruiting are those football robots that you see on the Super Bowl before you go to commercial.
On the Fox. So this unfolds, and then he's teaching his students class, and you can see that the kids are like, they're not interested, because now they're just being told that in 30 years their world's going to hell because it's being overrun by aliens. So why do I really care about biology?
They say that from the point that they come in the future, the world population has dropped to 500,000 people. The aliens have killed so many, and so many have been killed in battle. Nobody wants to go to fight, so there's a worldwide draft.
But why go? I get it. So the idea and what he learns is that So it's a 7-day tour. You go for 7 days. If you live, you live. You come back. But the reason that they're recruiting these people is because all these people are not alive in 2051.
Right. Because they can't exist at the same time.
Right.
In the timeline.
Well, we know that from Marty McFly. You can't interact with yourself.
At one point, when Chris Pratt is among the other draftees, and he doesn't want to leave his family, right? So there's this metallic thing on his forearm that goes into his system. So this is the thing that will automatically send him back to his time in 7 days. It's some kind of a tracking device or what have you.
The science is a little wonky on this, but you just go with it.
And these recruiters do not have a bedside manner at all.
No,
give them a little bit of encouragement at least.
But he does find out, because he does get drafted, and he finds out that he will die in 7 years. That's why he's being recruited, because he will no longer be alive. But you see this relationship he has with this little girl. In 26 minutes in, I wrote down, Miri gets drafted and comes back to save her dad and grandpa. They set it up. This is like Interstellar to a certain degree.
Or what was that George Clooney movie we just watched? The Midnight Sky.
The Midnight Sky. Yeah, you're right. That was his daughter. So
you're programmed to think these things. It's a future, and this is a girl that's just that age.
Like, when we're throwing a time travel movie, you wanna be the smart guy in the room to be like, oh, this is how it's gonna go.
My wife actually said it first. That's his daughter. Yeah. That's his daughter.
Yeah. Oh, I didn't pick up on the military. What was her name? Romeo Commander. I would so want that name. Don't call me Miri. When that lieutenant saw who he was, that's why he was like put to the front of the line. because he had the military training, and you're introduced to his dad. So you find out that he doesn't have this relationship with his father, and yet he goes to his dad when he finds out that he's drafted, and his dad is J.K. Simmons.
Yes.
Who, this guy could read me the phone book.
He did some weights for this movie because you would not want to mess with him in this movie.
He is very taut, and he is very sinewy.
And he's got a big, bushy white beard.
And he says something, I wish Stevie Nicks would show up in her birthday suit, a jar of pickles and a rubbing lotion.
Then he says, don't think too much on that.
Right.
But the reason he goes to see his father is because his father is some kind of anti-government figure, and he wants him to take off the wristband.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Would he run away from that point? If
you would be a deserter.
You'd be a deserter. Yeah.
I don't think this guy's a coward like that.
But he never sees his father. So the meeting doesn't go well, and he ends up not getting the thing taken off, and he ends up going. There's an interesting scene because he says goodbye to his family and he says goodbye to his daughter, and they're outside and they're digging, and they cut the cable, the cable running out of his house, I assume for the television. And he says to himself, gee, I thought they'd bury this deeper. And I'm like, this is coming back somehow.
Yeah, no.
They are going to work this into the end of the movie. No.
There's a couple things that they set up that don't pay off.
Yeah.
And this is like an hour in, I was bored. But the second hour is just pure bliss. Like you need to slog through the initial setup. You need to turn off your brain, because you get bogged down in the machinations of this what is it, a jump link that somehow takes them into the future.
We haven't mentioned yet, after they're drafted and they're supposed to go through basic training.
Yeah.
So they get there, and Chris Pratt looks around and he makes a friend, Charlie, played by Sam Richardson, who's probably my favorite character in the movie, maybe only second to J.K. Simmons. But they look around and they're like, do you notice there's nobody under 40 in here?
Yeah.
So it's all old people. And as you said, it's because you can't be alive in the time that you're going. So it has to be people that are already dead.
Yeah.
And it's people that have no business being on a battlefield, much less killing aliens.
That's what I'm saying. Why are you going back and recruiting schlubs when you have like military?
Yeah. So
why not jump back to the time when the aliens first show up and do exactly what they do at the end? Just wait for them to come out and then shoot them.
They say that time is not fluid. They've only figured out how to come from this one point in time and to here, and they can't move back and forth because that's what one character says. Why don't we just go before this happens?
Right.
And there's some cockamamie excuse where they say why they can't do it.
Yeah.
But
because
also,
our writer couldn't figure out a way.
As they started to do this basic training, I noticed, because they're shooting at targets. I'm like, why aren't they showing them pictures of the aliens and where they're...
See, this is interesting because you aim for the head, aim for the neck.
Well, show me a picture of it then, so I know where I'm aiming. So actually, one of the characters says, why aren't we seeing video footage? Wouldn't you think that this would prepare us better? Yeah. Well, if we did, you wouldn't want to go.
Right, correct.
Like, what?
If I show you what you're actually up against, I don't have a choice.
Like, I already don't want to go. Just show me.
I don't want to go. I want to stay home. But this is also another missed opportunity because one of those characters is Chloe from 24.
Yes, she's the one that asks the question.
And you're like, if you watch 24, right?
No, but I know who she is.
Okay, all right.
I'm aware.
Character's name is Nora in this. Is Chloe on that show? She was fantastic. And I think by the end of the series, they finally gave her a gun and put her in the field with Jack. But it's all for naught because she really doesn't survive the first wave.
As you said before, they're supposed to go for 7 days and then get pulled back if they're still alive. They're telling them that when you get there, you're supposed to fall maybe 5 to 10 feet before you hit the ground.
Yeah, okay.
And then Chris Pratt's like, oh, that sounds like fun. He has no idea what's in store for him.
Yeah.
So suddenly there's this alarm that goes off before they even really begin their basic training. Like, you got to go now. There's something wrong with the timeline. Something's going on.
But that doesn't make any sense because that's a time travel movie. It's like wait, something 30 years from now is taking place that I need to be at. You can't back up 10 minutes. You can't, whatever. So anyways, yeah. So all of a sudden they're jettisoned. Oh, we're also we're introduced to this other character, Dorian. who's kind of aloof, and he's got one of the spikes or a tooth around his neck, and they think he's all cool. And then you find out that this is his third tour, that he's done this 3 times already. So why not put him in charge?
Yeah, and you find out later that he also is terminal with cancer, so he's got nothing to lose.
No, right. If I find out I'm going to die in 7 years in a car crash, I got nothing to lose either. I don't know. Survive so I can come back and be traumatized by this event, that I couldn't actually stop it, knowing that my child is going to grow up in this world. They do refer to these creatures as white spikes.
Well, and I kept expecting Jack and Meg White to come out, like once they were looking at the dun, 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 dun,
Oh, I would love that.
Yeah.
And Charlie is just like this nervous Nelly guy. Like he knows he doesn't belong there. Like he's the first guy that's gonna die in a video game, let alone in real life.
And he knows it. And he knows it. Then we get jettisoned back to that first scene because they get forcibly sent forward in time, and they're not falling 5 to 10 feet. They're falling, out of the sky. So something went wrong with the jump. So then you see these characters that you now know, along with Chris Pratt, falling into the pool. And as you said, other ones are not so lucky. They keep falling, and meet horrible deaths. And falling, some of them are just falling on the side of the pool. And Chris Pratt, just by inches, makes it into the water.
Yeah, it looks like he's going to splatter right on the side and then somehow magically falls into the pool.
They're in Miami. At first, you don't see any aliens. So you're kind of on the edge of your seat waiting for these things to appear.
Because you don't know what, you just see the whole city in ruins. And there's fires everywhere. And you don't know what's going on.
I didn't watch any trailers or anything, so I don't know if they're revealed. But I think it's better if you don't know what they look like. The main reason they don't show the characters what they look like is they don't want the viewer to know what they look like.
Right. Yeah. You want to be as shocked as the characters. And I will say, like, how many thousands of alien invasion movies have we seen over the years? So you can only get so inventive with these things. And they're not like friendly aliens. They're just here to eat us. But they're really a cool design.
Yes. It's somewhat in the vicinity of the Quiet Place aliens. But
there's a lot more going on.
But it reminded me of like a greyhound, the way that they ran.
Yeah, I was leaning into like the Mewtwo Pokemon looking thing, because it's got the hind legs. They've got these tentacle that shoot spikes. But halfway through the movie, they forgot they could do that, because that did become an issue until the very end. But they almost have. Do you remember in the X-Men comic run, the Brood?
Yes.
That's what their mouths look like, these big giant, and I know that those were ripoffs of the Xenomorphs from Alien, because that came out right around the same time. They've got like just gaping maws with these monster teeth. They've got these little T-Rex arms in the front, but they skitter, and at one point they're like flying like flying squirrels. So they've got like this skin between their, very unique. And they're white. They're just kind of like this pasty gray white looking thing. Definitely interesting, and they are very formidable. They take a lot of bullets without going down. But they teach them, right? Then they teach them you got to hit them in the soft belly.
Hit them in the soft belly or the neck when they expose themselves. Yeah. So as soon as they get there, they have a mission that they have to rescue a research team from their lab facility. Because they're being spoken to. Dan is, because he's the leader of this group now. By Romeo Command, who we've already established is his daughter. Dan doesn't know this yet, but we know as the audience that this is his daughter. So she's on the comm links with him, and they go to this facility, and it's like Predator. All these guys are dead. The researchers, they've been strung up by the aliens.
This is very much like a first-person shooter game as they're going through the hallways.
And they see these spikes that they shoot out of their tentacles all over the wall.
They forgot they could do that halfway through the movie, because that doesn't even come into play until like toward the end. But,
and this is where Darian, you see him cutting off the claws of one of the dead creatures.
Yes.
And Charlie's like, you can't do that. Does it anyway. But then this comes in, this plays heavily into the end of the movie.
Yeah. We're told that the aliens take a Sabbath, that there's a day where they're not active.
Is it a specific day of the week, like a Saturday? Like
right. Dude, we're not marauding on Saturday. That's our day.
It's like the coyote and the sheepdog. They have time clocks.
They punch out.
Yeah.
But it doesn't come into play. It never comes into play. They're always aliens running amok. And at some point, and I will say, I felt like there was moments where these were practical. I couldn't find anything online, I mean, you can tell, yeah, when they're mass hoarding, they're CG. But there are moments when these actors and these characters are up close with these things that I feel that they're almost like practical effects. They're that physical.
Like a puppet's attacking the actor.
Like an actual physical thing on
Yeah,
set.
I didn't really think about it, which is great for a movie like this because
Right,
you don't want
correct.
the
You just
audience to
buy
think
into
about
it.
it. So once they find out that the team is dead that they're supposed to rescue, the jets are going to come and just obliterate the whole area. So they have to then get out. So
Yeah,
there's
which again, it's like we're going back in time to recruit these people, but we're so willing to just blow them up. It's all right, we'll recruit more people.
but it does give Chris Pratt the opportunity to have a jump in slow-mo with the explosion behind him.
Yes.
So he wakes up in the Dominican Republic. So they've extracted him somehow.
Yeah.
And he meets Colonel Forrester. Happens to have the same last name as himself.
Yeah, one
Of
R
who
or two.
this
You spell that
is.
with one R or two R's.
Yeah. So it's not a big secret. So they do give it up pretty early on that this is his daughter. She's like, I didn't bring you here for this, for like a teary reunion.
Yeah, she was a bit of a jerk.
Yeah, she was.
She was, because when she was a little kid, it's like, I want to be just like my dad. I love my dad.
Yeah, and she says, I brought you here for a reason. And he says, well, what's that? I'll let you know when I need to.
Right. Now would be a good time. I have 7 days.
So she does let go eventually that he left at some point. But then
Right,
she
and-
explains that it was because that they split the family and then he dies in a crash. I'm like, that's not technically
His
leaving
fault.
like his father left.
Well, that's like in Army of the Dead, where the daughter was mad at the dad for killing the zombie mom. It's like, oh, you want to keep her?
Yeah.
It's like, what? But it's like she's going off on him, and it's like, how do you defend something that you haven't even done yet?
Yeah.
He's like, I would never leave you. I love my family. I love you. She's like, well, you left and you're a jerk. He's like,
Yeah.
okay.
We find out that she's been working on a toxin to kill the aliens. There's a ton of males out there, but the rarity is a female. So it's, you know,
Aliens.
so there are echoes of aliens in this and the first Alien big time.
And
later
Starship
on.
Troopers. There's a Starship. This is Starship. Well, Starship Troopers was a satire.
So she's working on a toxin and they've nailed down a toxin that can kill all the males, but they're now working on a toxin that can kill the females. If you have one that can kill
Right.
99% of these things,
Yeah.
use it, you know? It's
Yeah.
like she's considering it a failure because she doesn't know what kills the female.
Yeah, and then we so then she recruits him to help, and it just becomes like a CSI procedural, where they're running the blood and the samples that he took from the lab to try and get 100%.
Yeah.
And his 7 days are almost up. So, but she wants to create the toxin so he can take it back with him, so then they can mass produce it, right?
Yes, because
So they would have this toxin ready, waiting for when these things show
So
up.
that's the reason why she wants to bring him back, because she knows going back, if she gives him the toxin, they don't have the resources in the future because they're just decimated to mass produce. She wants him to do it back in his time, so they're prepared for it.
So they barely understand time travel. Does this mean that they just so her timeline, even if he succeeds, her timeline would still play out, like he would just create an alternate timeline.
Yes, yeah.
So her timeline, they would all still die. They would still be invaded by these things and they would all still die. So what they're doing is all for naught.
They're not saving themselves per se. But she does
Humanities.
realize that it's a useless exercise at this point, so they can change the future.
When you give me a time travel movie and don't give me certain stepping stones to get.
Well, I look at it this way. Generally, I am just as pessimistic about these things.
I'm not
as you
being
are.
pessimistic. I'm just poking holes in it.
You're poking holes in it, but you have to look at it like this is a Chris Pratt, give the people what they want kind of a movie. I don't think it's meant to be put under that magnifying glass.
I just feel if you're going to make a $200 billion time travel alien invasion movie, you got to do your homework on the time travel. We're not stupid anymore. You know what I'm saying? We grew up on Back to the Future. We grew up on Terminator. We
and
know about-
Endgame, right? We
And
all-
Loki.
Yeah.
Don't even get me started on the variant timelines of Loki. They're playing pretty fast and loose with that as well, but we'll get there on the back end.
Then he witnesses his adult daughter's death because he sees the end. They're on like this oil rig.
This is a really nice set piece, by the way. This is very well done. And you see the two of them working together. and it actually comes back into play with his father at the end. I don't want to spoil anything, but yeah, and she does a full-on Hans Gruber. Every movie we watch now, someone's falling to Hans
It's
Gruber.
got the Hans Gruber.
Yeah, the
death.
camera in the face as you're falling down.
Yeah,
and where the hell did that cruise ship come from?
Well, they had several cruise ships that I saw.
But they were just moored. They were just sitting there. Now all of a sudden, this thing is careening headlong into the oil rig.
Well.
Listen, it's spectacular, but it made no sense.
So the end of humanity here is out in the ocean on this oil rig, right? And it's very much similar to like the setup of World War Z, where like the army is out there away from all the chaos. So you're thinking, is this like a quiet place where these things can't get in the water? And again, they've come to a planet that's mostly water.
They are swimming.
They are swimming. They don't care about the water.
Swarming. There's nothing stopping these.
So
these
this
are
is
smart aliens.
Like you said, this is a nice set piece. Like just the visual of all these ships out there surrounding this oil rig or oil rigs, and they have walls built in the water around these things, like a couple of different levels of walls. And these things, once the things realize where they are, it's just like thousands of them, like coming over the walls. They don't care about the water.
And like you said, you never once stop and be like, oh, this is just CGI madness, because you watch like World War Z. And the scene where the zombies are all, it just like, we know what's real and what's when something is off, but these, you just buy into it. It's part of the story. Here they are. Like I said, there are parts where I feel that these things were practical effects on set.
The daughter falls, looking at the camera, and of course it's the exact moment where he's going to get zapped back.
But it's
7 days are up.
This is so comic book. Where he's got the vial, the countdown clock's on his wrist, and the alien is dragging her down. He's attached to her. He's holding on, and she lets go. And you just get that pullback shot of the three of them, all like silhouettes in midair as they're plummeting to the explosions below, and then he gets zapped back at the last second. But then we find out immediately that the jump link is broken. Apparently we lost Wi-Fi connection. So we nothing goes back. That's it. We can't go back now. But he's got the vial in his hand, and where's the vial? Where's the vial? She's like, it's in your hand. We tried to get it out.
You've had a death
crushed
grip.
it, idiot.
So now the future people that are there are stuck there. So
which is fine. Listen, I just got 30 years back.
But no, the existential question is, are they eventually going to be born? And what's going to happen to the future people at that point?
That is an interesting question, because, theoretically, they could run into their infant selves.
Yeah.
I thought that wasn't supposed to happen.
Well, it probably is going to at this point.
But they also don't seem to care about the toxin.
And this is where this comes into play, like when this alien invasion started and how it started. Nobody seems to know. The only thing that they know is that they came out of Russia. It's some remote...
First wave attack was Russia in 2048. They have no idea how they got there. Maybe they were already there.
And they've studied the tapes. They've studied everything. There's no ship that comes down that anybody can see, and nobody knows how they got there. And it's the wife, not a scientist. Nobody has ever thought of this before. The wife just happens to say,
what if they were already here?
Maybe they didn't get there on the day of the attack.
Yeah.
And it's like light bulbs go off over everybody's head. And didn't these people see the Tom Cruise War of the Worlds? This is exactly what happened there, almost. They were underground all the time.
That's right. But this is where we go back to his science class. This is what we got to rely on this nerd kid that we were introduced to early on, who is a volcano nerd.
Comically, at the beginning of the movie, when you see him in front of his class, that's all this kid ever wants to talk about. And this is where the claw that Darien has comes into play, because they're looking at this, they're looking at the toxin, and they see bits of volcanic ash in the claw.
Yeah, right. That's how they end up. Who do we know knows about volcanoes? And next thing you know, they're hanging out with a 12-year-old kid who's schooling them.
So apparently these things blew out of a Chinese volcano into Russia, or the ship blew out of a Chinese volcano. I don't know exactly how the volcano correlates into this.
Yeah. But now we got to go back to Dad, because the military doesn't.
And this is insane. This is insane.
Preposterous. This is where I'm wholeheartedly into this movie. Where I'm like, all right, I'm along for the ride.
Me too. It's
just so
that's
over
why
the
I'm
top,
so mad
silly.
at this guy, because Chris Pratt goes to the guy that's in charge of all the draft and everything else. He's like, I have the answer.
I know where they
are. They're in Russia, and we have to go there. We can kill them. The taxpayers won't pay for this. What?
Yeah.
The
yeah.
taxpayers will pay for thousands to go into the future and for you to set up a time portal, but they won't pay to
They're not going to
save
believe
the
there's
Earth.
an alien. He was up for re-election that year. You got to give him some slack.
You're going to spend the taxpayers' money to save the world? Out of the question.
Out of this. So they assemble a team, and then Dad somehow gets them to this Russian glacier island. They actually call it the Academy of Sciences
because
Glacier.
Dad is a pilot, so they get Dad on board, they get the team on board, and they have multiple, because they've also worked on the toxin so that it will kill the female at this point, and all the males.
How we know that, we have no idea.
Yeah,
because they don't have a female to test it on. They just
but they've got the claw. They've got the claw.
Oh, the claw. Okay, but we suddenly so we have a plane that transports them all the way to Russia. They get through Russian airspace, no problem. Undetected. We have snowmobiles or snow machines for anybody outside of the U.S. We have advanced Geiger counter equipment that I don't even know what it's registering. We got explosives. We got C4 out the wazoo. We have injector guns that they had to create specifically to inject this toxin. Like, I don't think those are off the shelf.
No, definitely not.
Right? All I can think of is they're the reason. They're going to be the reason. If you want to follow time travel mentality, they're the reason that they actually show up. They actually break them out.
They're the ones prison. That actually wake them up. The reason that everybody thinks that now that they've come to is because of global warming, because they've been stuck in the ice, and eventually the ice is going to melt.
Well, look, by 2051, you did some time lapse thing where the ice shelf is melted completely. So, yeah, this ship that's buried deep underground.
So they explode the ice, and in a scene directly from John Carpenter's The Thing.
Well, even when they went into the ice caverns, I'm thinking The Thing.
Yeah. They find the derelict ship, and they figure out that the aliens don't pilot the ship at all, which the viewer knows because these aliens are basically animals.
Yeah, there's no sentience.
There's no intelligence.
Right, correct.
It's like, how can how could anybody think that they can pilot a ship?
Right, they're simply cargo.
They're cargo, just like the original Alien, the derelict ship in the original Alien.
Are they? But they did question, were they meant for food? Are they like cattle, or are they weapons?
Are they weapons?
Weapons.
Yeah. So they do find the pilots of the ship killed by the aliens, apparently. But they also find the cargo, and they're all like in deep slumber storage.
Yeah, they're like in these little embryonic sacks or something.
So how did the pilots get killed if all the aliens are stored away?
Well, it's like when you're in a car crash.
But
if you tense up,
wasn't one of them strung up like the
people that we saw?
People we saw, right? There was one guy that was upside down, hanging upside down.
Yeah, I don't think. What'd you say before? Don't think too much about it, Jim. Just go with it. Well, don't even talk about the fact that the spaceship was completely encapsulated in a cavern, not like covered in snow over billions of years. They had complete access to it. The door, they didn't have to worry about getting into. Oh no, he did use some laser thing to open it up. He did do that.
So how many would you say are in there? Like 15?
Like 12.
With one female
in that one room. Yeah.
And they happen to have enough injections to kill all of these things, right? But they're going to do them in like a section at a time.
The amount of C4 they had just to blow that top of the volcano, I can't even imagine. There's no way you would have been able to carry that much on a snowmobile.
They inject the first batch of aliens and they disintegrate. So this thing works, right? The toxin works.
Yes.
But at the same time, like all these storage containment things must be interlinked because the other aliens start waking up that they haven't injected yet. So now they're dealing with a room full of aliens and an escaped female. Yeah. So they manage to kill off the males, and then all of a sudden the last one standing is the female, of course, the one that they cannot let escape.
And that's a fun because they left Dad and Charlie out front to stop anything that escapes from the ship. Now this is the first time Dad's seen any of these.
Yeah, it is the first time.
Dad has been in the past, and at one point he cuts his hand to draw blood to it, and it's like, I guess Dan told him about that they can smell blood a mile away, because how else would Dad have known that? Don't get me wrong, this was fun. So yeah, it comes down to dad and son back to back that are battling this female who's just taking rounds into its head. you know, and that's when it remembered, oh, I got spikes, I can shoot spikes. So then we shoot some of those spikes out, but they can also fly, right? We saw them flying.
Yes, we did.
So
see
when she
them
falls
flying.
over the cliff, you're like, oh, this thing's just swooping around back. It's like freaking Rocky the Flying Squirrel there.
Yeah. Well, maybe, you know, maybe the males can, maybe the female can't.
It was fun. It comes down to fisticuffs, basically. He's like
Yes.
punching this thing.
Yep.
But you're right. He takes the claw that he has, the spike, and he uses it in the eye.
That was too close quarters. He would have been sliced and diced, like,
Oh,
from all
absolutely.
those teeth and
Absolutely.
everything else.
Yeah, this thing's just a snashing and a slashing. Yeah, it's like a great white with.
But like, what does
He-
he do with this? He jams it in her mouth, right?
Yeah, so
That's
his
how
whole arm
yeah.
is like inside its mouth. Yeah.
Yeah.
And those teeth. Yeah.
But
they
having
just
said all
smash
that, I actually
Yes.
enjoyed
No.
it.
This is
I-
B-level monster movie at its finest.
Turn your brain off. And this is the
Yeah.
kind of movie, that's why you like it, and it's fun to make fun of it afterwards because you enjoyed watching it and writing down these things furiously. Well, how could this happen? How could this
Yeah.
happen? With a big
Yeah.
dumb smile on your face.
So they're trapped. Oh, I guess they flew out of Russia. There's only 3 of them that left.
Yeah, once the world realizes that they've stopped the alien threat, they're heroes, right? Doesn't matter that they're like,
But they
behind
were
enemy
heroes
lines.
because it was the other guy that you said that poo-pooed the idea, who took all the credit for it.
Yeah, you see him on TV at the end. It was all my idea, you know.
Yeah, that's when you want
I
to
was
see.
de-
like,
I
the-
was decisive, and I had them go right in.
Pratt just walk in and punch him in the nose.
Yeah.
Again, we've now created an alternate timeline where these things never invade.
So he
So
never.
does he still
saves-
die in a car crash?
He
7
never
years from
saves
now?
the daughter that he met.
No, correct.
So you assume that in the old timeline, like because he was so haunted by his experience of going forward in time, this is somehow what caused the separation. So maybe he's saved his marriage by saving the world.
Oh
Who
yeah,
knows?
you got the yeah. And then when he sees the little girl again, he like loses his mind.
The original title,
Yes, this is interesting.
Ghost Draft.
Tomorrow War, it's a little too on the nose, and it doesn't really say anything. Ghost Draft, you're like, what the hell's that? Ghost Draft.
But it has nothing to do with ghosts,
Yeah.
you know,
Or
only in the
draft.
most
Well,
esoteric way.
Draft and the fact that they were drafted.
Draft I can see. Ghost, I
Um,
know. And you even mentioned it right up front, Edge of Tomorrow. Well,
Yeah.
this is a future movie. Let's put tomorrow in the title and people will, you know, lump them together in their heads.
Yeah. There is another movie called Tomorrow War, because when I was Googling it for the movie poster for our Instagram page, there are other movies out there.
Is there a lawsuit
with
pending?
this, I think maybe it didn't have the in front of
Okay.
it. I'm gonna come out with a movie next week called The Star Wars.
So how many buckets would we give?
Wow, you might have talked it up to me right now, because I did have it as 3.25, but I might go 3.5.
I'm going 3.5 with
Yeah.
this. I liked
Yeah.
it.
It is a little slow in the beginning, like you said. You really have to just kind of turn off your brain and be like, this is it. But that last hour,
If you're in it for the monsters, you're not going to be shortchanged. There's some
no,
good monsters.
it is fun. Like I said, it's B-level monster action.
Yeah,
You know, yeah, Pratt's no Tom Cruise, but
but
no
you don't
one
want
else
him to
is.
be.
He just kind of is. He doesn't have the smarminess of you know, his Guardians character, or even what's his name from Jurassic World. You know, he's a little in between. He's a little schlubby. He doesn't get the best
Yeah.
lines.
Does anybody
His-
know his character's name from Jurassic World? It's
Yeah,
he's
give me
just
a
Chris.
minute.
It's Chris Pratt. That's
I
what
know.
he is. Yeah.
Jeez, I do know it. I'm drawing a blank.
A positive review, a recommendation. If you're on the fence, check it out. Tomorrow War.
Yeah, it's free as long as you got Prime.
Just shut your brain off. Go with it. It's all we ask.
We don't ask much at all.
No.
No, as a matter of fact, we normally just tell you to do stuff.
Do you think they have bomb pops at the concession stand?
Oh, the red, white, and blue ones?
Yeah.
Yes, it's very patriotic.
Let's go get bomb pops and let's come back and
Okay.
get even more patriotic than we already are
Yes.
with Red
Yes,
Dawn.
let's go.
A snow cone, please.
Cut. What's with this snow cone bit? The word is water.
But I want a snow cone.
Now let's try it again. Now this time stick to the script.
Okay.
Action.
Water, please. So I get water. But where you are, you can get snow cones. Bring me one, will you please? Any flavor.
Okay, we're back talking Red Dawn.
Owen. His name is Owen in Jurassic
from-
World. There you go. Sorry. That was driving me nuts.
All right, Red Dawn, 1984.
My wife was not happy. My wife does not like this movie because it's such a downer. And I will tell you, actually watching it this time, I agree with her. This is
It is
a very downer
Now,
movie,
even as a
man.
kid, I was really excited to watch this again because
Yeah.
I haven't seen it probably since it first came out on video in the 80s. And I saw it in the theater. I remember when I was a kid as well.
No, I did not.
Hadn't watched it since probably 85 or 86, whenever it did come out on video initially. And now I know why.
It has been a long time since I've seen this, and it's very iconic. This is the reason we have PG-13 movies.
Yes,
kids.
this is the first
Yes.
PG-13 movie that was released in theaters. It's not the reason that they came up with.
No, I
the
think that was
rating.
actually, you can blame Temple of Doom on that.
Yes, and then
Right.
double down with Gremlins after that as well.
Oh yeah. Well, once you start putting gremlins in microwaves and blenders.
Yeah, but this was the first movie to be
And
released.
this is really that. This
with
is
the rating.
18 level violence.
It is.
You know,
It's-
right down to this the
Yeah.
sound effects and the explosions are like straight out of the 80s.
This kind of brought feelings back about this movie as I was watching it from when I first saw it. Now and then, I was kind of bored by it. It's long and it's depressing. I wasn't that impressed as a kid, and I wasn't that impressed as an adult either.
Well, Leah Thompson and Jennifer Grey definitely left some feelings with me, but we'll get there later.
You don't leave baby in the crawl space. Let me tell you
Oh,
that.
That's true. Yeah. Family heirloom. That's a family heirloom right there. I was hoping this was on Tubi. It's not. The only way, my library didn't have it. I didn't order it in time. I had to pay $3.99 on Prime. And it's grainy goodness. They did not clean it up. It's not.
I was thankfully able to see it on HBO Max.
Yes,
and
I was going to say it is on HBO.
It
Yes.
was clean. It was
Is
nice
it?
and
Yeah.
clean. Yeah.
I felt like I was watching an old school VHS tape, but I agree with you. I have not seen this in a very long time because, like I said, anytime I've stumbled across it, like my wife is just like, no, I don't want to watch this. This is a downer movie, and she's right.
It's not like I was sad watching it. I was just didn't
No,
care.
but it's not. Yeah, I get it. Like you're not really invested in the characters, and they're up against the Russian army. You don't
really like them. You don't
you
really
don't
like
for
them.
a minute think that they're actually going to win either. They're just holding out their own until the inevitable end. This was directed by John Milius, Conan the Barbarian.
This guy, like the most jingoistic director that you could probably get your hands on. So it's interesting that I was just reading some of the history about this, how this came about was initially supposed to be like a Lord of the Flies type thing with much younger kids, 8th grade type.
Yeah, that would have been a little.
And it was supposed to be
Much.
more, the original script had apparently more of an anti-war message than this. But when John Milius got his claws into this, forget about it. It went out the window. It became a teen Rambo is how it's described. So, and you know what's funny, which is telling, that Milius was paid $1.25 million
I did see
to
that.
direct and a gun of his
Gun of his
choice.
choice. That's like Arnold Schwarzenegger getting a friggin' Hummer.
Yeah.
I want the Humvee. Yeah, this is. I don't know if we need to go through. I have like 5 pages of notes.
So now the time that it came out is important because we're in the
Yes,
middle of the
this is
Reagan Cold
very
War,
much
right?
a time.
Like movies like The Day After are fresh in everybody's.
And we've probably only watched that once in our lives.
Yeah, I didn't.
Right?
Yeah, I didn't want to watch it when it came
No,
out.
that
but
was
I
like
had
that
to.
was
I had to.
must-watch television.
Yeah.
As a kid growing up in high school, I think every history teacher forced us to watch it that night. Like the entire world probably watched that.
Yeah, and I was
So-
I was terrified.
I
of
think that was
scenario.
the point of it, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It wasn't. I'm sure that kids growing up in the 50s and into the 60s had it much more ingrained in their heads that this could happen at any moment, but the threat was still there. So this was kind of playing on people's fears. This film, Red Dawn, it wasn't that much of a stretch to think that this could happen. Just the visual itself of these paratroopers coming out of the sky from who knows.
This is brilliant because I forgot, like if you blink the first 20 seconds, you missed the whole setup because there's a
It's
lot of reading to
tenuous.
do.
It's tenuous, and they blast by it.
Yeah, no,
Like,
you can't even read it fast. I actually
you're not meant to think about it.
they're trying to give you an explanation for why Russia would invade the United States.
There's something about wheat failing in the Ukraine.
Right, correct. Yeah, yeah.
NATO
People
fails,
are losing their job.
Mexican Revolution.
Yep.
And you're like, oh, okay. As you
Yeah, but it's first 30 seconds. It's like a global setup. But this is the brilliance of the movie, which is you're barely introduced to these characters, and literally the plot is dropped in your lap. All of it, they're in high school, they're in the history class or whatever, and here's the teacher, and he's teaching them about Genghis Khan's war tactics. So I'm like, oh, well, hopefully they paid attention because they're going to need to know this.
Yeah.
Which it never really played out. I was kind of hoping that, hey, remember when Mr. Teasdale told us this? Let's circle around. No. And these paratroopers just dropped. They just drop, and they're like, what the hell's going on? Teacher walks out, and all of a sudden he gets gunned down.
Because they think they're skydivers or
Somebody missed their drop point, open fire, and they just start shooting and killing people.
So the first question comes up is, how do they not know about this? They have radio. I know this is an isolated town, but they have radio and TV, at least I'm sure, because Powers Booth, he later comes into this as a
military pilot,
as an Air Force pilot who crashes, and then he befriends the Wolverines. So he talks about
befriends more than one.
How like some major cities like DC get nuked at the start of this, and then these paratroopers come from disguised commercial airliners. So that's how they make it past.
Yeah, that's interesting, which is the opening credits take place as you're flying over these clouds, and I'm like, is that supposed to be meant like the plane coming in? Like, is that the POV of the plane? But this takes place in some hick town in Colorado.
Right.
So they're in the middle of nowhere.
But still, they're in the middle of nowhere. But they know if DC was attacked. Come on, that something was going on.
They were all in school that day. All hell breaks loose, and everybody just starts running. And then these kids, I think that Patrick Swayze's character has already graduated school. Like, I get the impression he was older because Charlie Sheen plays his brother.
Yeah.
And originally, did you know Emilio Estevez was supposed to play Jed?
Oh,
so
really?
They literally would have been brothers. Yeah.
Yeah.
But Patrick Swayze kills it.
But these guys, these paratroopers are just tearing the town up. Rocket launcher to the school
Yeah,
bus.
who hasn't fantasized about blowing up a school bus?
Yeah.
Right? You're like, boom.
They're invading like Podunk, USA.
Right. Yeah. It's like we're gonna send our third tier guys out there and they can just,
Is it necessary to blow up the school? It's
no,
like you see the
apparently
people
not.
that are running around here.
No. But these boys are smart enough, they're hillbilly enough to say we need to head into the mountains. So they go to the gas station, which I think if you're invading that's the first thing you would have blown up is the gas station. They're not. They take soda and a football. They don't take water.
But one
They're
of them
not very
says,
good survivalists.
I caught on the subtitles. Grab some toilet paper. I'm not going to use leaves. One of them says.
I didn't catch that. But yeah, survival skill fail. Supposedly these guys know how to live off the land and hunt, but they didn't take water with them.
And the dad doesn't go with them. Like, the dad is the owner of the gas station, is the father of one of the kids that's in the truck.
Yeah.
And he goes, go on, son. Go on.
Yep. Live your life.
Yep. Don't
They're
think about me.
Everybody.
Don't think about me.
And you're right, they're like clearing out all the weapons in the gas station, and at one point 2 boys grab the exact same jacket, and I'm like, oh, how embarrassing is that? Now we'll never be able to tell Matt and Aardvark apart from each other.
They established that this happens in October, so it's at the onset of fall and winter.
That is interesting. They do set it at September. We go from September to like January or something. So that's kind of cool. So you see this kind of evolution of, how long they've been out there and kind of hiding out.
But you never get a sense of how they live out there. No. You only see attacks. You don't see, like, do they live in a cave? Are they sleeping on the ground?
Yeah. I think they grab some sleeping bags, but especially once you bring the girls into play, right? It's not like they have, like, they're out in the open. So how many helicopter, patrols before I find these people? And
I think that there's maybe a scene or two where they're around a campfire, but that only goes so in the dead of winter. You got to seek shelter,
Yeah. But they sneak back in town, At one point, they're at the old guy's house. It's like
I
so
know.
they're
It's
just,
like they come and go as they
they're
please.
milling about, and right. And at one point, they go in and go, "Hey, Susie, how are you?" And she's like, "Oh, what are you doing here? They're looking
And the
for
guy,
you."
they're whispering. The soldier's
Yeah.
looking right at him, whispering, and with no suspicion whatsoever.
Yeah, hi, my name's Jed. Jed, you might want to keep it on a down
It's
low.
like they're looking for you.
They're
You
looking
mean
for you.
except for that guy over
Yeah,
there?
exactly. Look the other way.
Right.
They take all the adults and they put them in this. Nice use of a drive-in cinema. They turn it into a friggin' re-education camp.
Now
Rusty's
that
ruined it.
was actually pretty smart. The this one scene where, because it's the Russians and the Cubans, you find out, that are working together to invade the continental U.S. because the U.S. has no more allies, and they're
Except for the Chinese, I think he said.
and the U.K., but they were so decimated themselves they couldn't offer any help.
Yeah, so Russia really had their act together, apparently.
But at one point, because the guy that's leading operations in this town is Cuban, all his dialogue is subtitled, and he says for one of his troops to go to the sporting goods store and round up all the paperwork on sales of firearms. And that's who they round up and put in the drive-in. Anybody that they think that might be a problem that has a gun, they round up.
No more. That's one more reason not to be registered.
Mm.
Buy them on the black market like everybody else. Yeah, I did like it when they snuck in and they're talking to Harry Dean Stanton, who's also very underused.
Who you know?
And they're like
and you
whispering the
already-
whole time. And then as the boys run away, he's like, "Avenge me, boys! I'm like,
Avenge me!
I'm like,
Avenge me!
You couldn't have whispered that?
You already hate this guy because, first of all, you understand that this was like the Great Santini, right?
Yes,
Them
yeah.
growing up.
Yeah.
Because there's a scene where they first hunt their first deer out in the
Oh, yeah,
woods.
yeah.
And they say to C. Thomas Howell that
Who
you've
was
got to
sporting a
drink
Star
the
Wars
blood.
hat, by the way.
He's wearing a Star Wars hat that's turned up, so you never see the full Star Wars logo.
You know that Star Wars logo when you see it.
And I'm thinking to myself, are they hiding that intentionally? Do they not have the right
I don't
to
remember
use that logo
at all. I don't remember that.
But anyway, so Patrick Swayze and Charlie Sheen
Yeah.
as brothers tell C. Thomas Howell after they shoot the deer that he has to, now that it's his first
Drink.
kill, he has to drink the deer's blood to drink
the
its
spirit
spirit.
of the end.
And you're thinking to yourself, this has got to be a practical joke. They're going to laugh after he drinks the blood. No, this is serious. And you're thinking you can almost envision their father forcing them to do the same thing. Drink the blood. Drink it. So by the time you meet Harry Dean Stanton, you already hate him because you can picture the torture that these kids had to go through.
As somebody who grew up hunting, that's not far from the truth.
Did you drink blood? Did you drink blood, Jeff?
I may have.
Oh no!
It's a rite of passage, my friend. I never shot a deer.
Here I am thinking that this is total BS, but
No, yeah,
There's-
it's like
there's
up there with
truth
cow
to it.
tipping. It's up there with cow tipping. my
Oh.
friend. It does happen. Although I never tipped over a cow either.
I'm
Yes.
sorry. I'm sorry,
Yes,
Jeff.
that's okay. I don't take offense to it. But yeah, they tell them never shoot twice because then they'll find you, and then they proceed to like shoot multiple times
Yes.
throughout the rest of the movie. But they can never find them. Like they're just that good. Bunch of stupid kids.
Or the troops are that bad that they can't.
Well, that's what I'm
find them.
thinking. Like you said, it's not Manhattan. It's not it's central. It's even the guy, the colonel, like he was like, why am I here? Why am I in this little rinky-dink town? They didn't go out of their way to try and humanize him. At one point, he's writing letters to his wife. I miss you. I'm cold.
And at one point, they do try to explain that it's like a key point at the foot of the
Yeah.
Rockies or something.
Yeah,
and-
because like you said, when Powers Booth's character, Andy, and he's explaining, like he's laying out the map of the United States, and we held them off here at the River Valley, and this it means nothing to nobody. Doesn't
Mhm.
matter. Yes, but they are in the militarized zone. There's free America out like what 20-30 miles. They're deep into enemy territory.
Yes. And as you said, they go into town and apparently they're being looked for, but nobody is looking for them as they're right next to all these soldiers.
No, they're literally walking down the street. The guys, the punk kids, comrades are hitting on the girls. That's after we acquire them from Grandpa.
Grandpa, played by Ben Johnson, who is the
Yes.
cowboy in Mighty Joe Young.
These girls have nothing to do. I don't remember them being this worthless. Like,
Well,
there's
no,
one-
I was nicknaming Jennifer Grey Tokyo Rose because she's the one that they give the
Rose.
bombs to.
Yes, yeah, and that is great where she's carrying the basket and they steal it from her, throw it in the tank, and it's a bomb.
She comes out of the building in town, and she, the guy's flirting with her, and
Yep.
she's like, "Oh, I'll come back later," and boom, then the building explodes that she was
Yeah,
in.
I will say it's really nice to see Jennifer Grey's original nose make an appearance because that poor girl got a nose job and never worked again. She had
Yeah.
like one TV show and that was it. I hate to say it. Somebody said, you know what? You're not Hollywood pretty enough. You need to do something. And maybe she was self-conscious, but that's what made her her. Just embrace it, man. Yeah, I miss that nose. I have a thing for big noses, but we had a radio free message. Like at one point they're hearing that there's people outside and they're sending these messages. What was it? The chair is against the wall. John has a long mustache. And you're like, we never find out what that means, or do they communicate with these people?
Yeah, if anybody listening to this would know what that means.
Right.
Because the Wolverines.
Because you would think
certainly
there's got to
don't.
be other pockets of resistance. They can't be, they're a bunch of kids. There's got to be other people that, right. You're not sending out these messages just in the hopes that somebody, has a decoder ring to figure it out. So, but it goes nowhere. It goes absolutely nowhere. I don't know.
As we said before, we get Powers Booth as the Air Force pilot.
He is so young
crashes.
because he was also in 24. He was the vice president, and he looks like he's like 20 in this movie.
Which is a good thing because he starts and they cut a love scene between him and Leah Thompson.
I mean, I don't know what the age difference is. She's very young in this, by the way. This is pre Back to the Future.
Yeah.
Which came out
she
the next year.
looks very young.
She
to your
is
point.
young.
Yeah,
she is very young, and she's like mute. Like something's up with her. Like I don't know, she was traumatized. She's got like 2 lines of dialogue in this entire movie. Like she throws flowers at him and giggles and runs away.
You get the impression from what Ben Johnson says that there was attempted rape on both of them.
That
from
is,
the
yeah,
troops.
you did. Yeah, he did say that they were.
Even the little things that are still in the movie about the relationship between Powers Booth and her is very uncomfortable.
Yeah.
It's very uncomfortable. And the fact that there was a love scene that was actually shot,
how come that's not on the director's cut?
Now that was taken out because preview audiences weren't having it.
Like,
and I can see why.
Yeah.
But yeah, every line of dialogue that comes out of Patrick Swayze's mouth is just machismo, like times 10.
Shut up, you're just a dumb jock.
Don't ever cry again for as long as you live.
Yeah, meanwhile, there's an awful lot of man hugging going on in this movie. Every time you turn around, those boys are hugging each other. And let me ask you this. Do tanks take gasoline? Like they pulled up the tank to the gas station to fill her up.
I assume so, yeah.
I don't think that's how they work.
don't know.
Did you read that? I guess those Russian tanks were so realistic that the CIA actually came out to investigate.
Really?
They didn't know what was going on. They're like, "Oh, what do we got going on here?" "Oh yeah, we're just filming a movie." "Oh, okay." Yeah. But you talk about that whole scene where she's on the bike and she's getting accosted and they take her stuff, the basket, and it turns out to be a bomb, and she's running through the field and the boys are waiting, in camouflage to take them out. Like that's the start of like this whole attack sequence, this montage, which is very, like I said, very A-team level violence.
Yeah. And then they become from that point on freedom fighters that are striking.
Yeah, I mean,
at will.
Wolverines. But like you said, you're barely hanging on as far as caring.
Yeah. And the fact that the soldiers kill civilians in the town every time they attack, and it doesn't stop them.
The mayor is somehow shocked that this is like he's literally turning his head. Oh, what's his name? He's a famous actor too, Lane.
Yeah, you see him in a ton
Lane
of movies.
Smith, which is funny because his name is Mayor Bates, but that's also his name in the TV show V. His last name was Bates. I'm like, I wonder if it's the same character. My Cousin Vinny, Mighty Ducks. This guy's in there. Like you see him, you're like, oh, I know that guy. The Nicaraguan, who. Again, if you pause Amazon, it tells you what the character's name, because I don't think they ever referred to him by name. That's Mickey from Pee-wee's Big Adventure. Hey, great movie, Pee-wee. I got you a footlong. Way to go, Pee-wee.
That's right. That's right.
That's a Mickey from friggin' Pee-wee's Urban.
So Powers Booth's character, he gives them the lowdown of how this all happened. Nuke strikes in the Dakotas and DC, but it became a conventional war after that because Russia's trying to take over the U.S. and they want to take it in one piece. So they don't want to.
Right.
So neither side wants to resort to these weapons. So it's all conventional. So that's how they're explaining that away. So he becomes like the dad of the group, which makes the relationship with Leah
Even
Thompson all
creepier,
the more
yeah.
creepy.
Even creepier. Yeah.
Yeah. Whenever they attack, they're spray painting Wolverines. So there's no secret on who these are. So their families are dead back in the town.
Because it doesn't take much for the KGB to figure out. All right, well, who's not accounted for?
The local sporting group is the
Yes.
Wolverine.
Yeah, the Wolverines. What is a Wolverine? It's a tiny little angry
Ferocious.
animal.
Ferocious.
But we do see we do see American helicopters and planes every now and again swooping in, dropping napalm, but not enough to liberate the town.
No.
Just enough to piss off the tanks.
And just enough to make Charlie Sheen or C. Thomas Howell say, "It's one of ours." Yeah!
Right, yeah. Thank you. Just you had to let us know. Yeah. And I guess Jed brought a razor with him because he was clean cut through the entire time. You're in the woods for months on end.
Or he just has a very light beard.
That could be. I don't
Yeah.
know.
Not the kind of thing that you want to admit when you don't cry ever again. Right.
That's right. Well, once you hold back those tears, the hair follicles stop growing. So we get into like January and they're now in like winter gear, which I'm like, I can't even say they were stealing it from the guys they were shooting because they didn't match the Russians.
Oh, they were getting all their food and stuff from Ben Johnson. Every time they needed something, they just
go to
him.
Ben Johnson's house. You got any more granddaughters?
Yeah.
Oh man. But now all of a sudden the Russian tanks are white to match the snow.
And there's one attack scene towards the end where the kids are all, they're wearing white jackets. It's not even camouflage, but they're 10 feet away from the Russian soldiers who can't see them. And it's obvious there's somebody's there, not even hiding in a white jacket.
The troops, they're all wearing like plastic masks. And I'm thinking to myself, how messed up would it be if they actually sent out like their parents dressed like this with like a gun taped to their hand, and you shoot they didn't go that dark.
But it does start to get dark in its own way once we figure out that the mayor's son has swallowed a tracker, and that's how. And so they gun him down. They take him out. Like, you betrayed us, man. Yeah,
I don't know.
yeah.
Sorry, man. I got captured.
And then, like, the big set piece at the end is when the three the mega helicopters come.
Oh, I thought you were going to say when Swayze actually did cry. That's not a good thing to hear, by the way. Although he needed to do that little chipmunk noise a little more. How come they weren't doing that through? And that whole thing, right? So they're watching a caravan. They dump off some fruit. I'm like, that's a trap. All you gotta do is poison the fruit.
I know.
Wait for these idiots to show up and eat it. Boom, you're done.
How literally it looks like somebody, as they're driving away, pushed those boxes off.
Yeah, kicked it out. Watch this. Yeah, they're going to eat it. A little rat poison on there. You would have taken them out in a heartbeat.
And Jennifer Grey pretty much on all fours scurries towards the...
She was in rat mode at that point.
Yeah.
Yeah. When they shot was it Daryl? That was the
mayor's son. Yeah.
Yeah. They didn't even bury him. They just left him. But whenever you see those big Russian helicopters with the gun turrets on the side, I can't think of anything but Rambo, because they played so large in the tail end of the Rambo 2 as well. And these guys are like, handguns against these things. And you got to talk about the patriotic music that just swells.
And I have a feeling that they've been playing this in trailers ever since.
Because it is very iconic. Yeah. It's very familiar.
Da-na-na.
Yeah.
Dun, dun, dun.
Yeah. They probably play it in front of Vision Quest. You probably Rocky 4. Oh no, that was done. Never mind. But Jed carves his name into the rock. So did he want him to think he was dead, or he just knew he was going to die?
He knew he was going to die.
So preemptive strike. He put his own name on the rock.
So after the big helicopter set piece, there's like 4 of them left alive. So the 2 brothers sacrifice
what's his name?
themselves.
Andy gets shot down. The tank scene.
Yeah.
Yeah. Andy gets taken out. Jennifer Grey gets taken out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we've got Leah Thompson and Danny, who is, by the way, Brad Savage, who played Danny Glick in the Salem's Lot TV movie. He was the kid scratching at the window, the vampire scratching at the window. I just have to give a shout out to Brad Savage.
So I found this interesting, which is the character Daryl. That actor was played by Darren Dalton. That's very confusing. My name is Daryl Dalton, but I play a character named Daryl.
And Dalton being the name of Swayze's character in Roadhouse. Pain don't hurt.
We need to do Roadhouse.
Yes, we do.
We need to do machismo Man week.
So yeah, so the brothers go into town to create a diversion to let Leah Thompson and Danny escape, and they end up dying in each other's arms on the playground. Not before the commander, who has just shown his human side by writing a letter to his wife, as you said, lets them go. He has the gun. He has the drop on him. He's got him at gunpoint, but he lets them.
Which is stupid. Just
go
shoot him and then you can go home.
Yeah.
Mission accomplished. Put up the big banner.
But he sees that they're both shot and about to die.
And kids. Well, I guess they knew that they were kids, but
yeah,
and it's a very Butch Cassidy, Sundance Kid kind of standoff. You know, they're running through town and just gunning things left and right. So yeah, only Erica and Danny are left.
Yep.
Yes, very bleak. Very. We do find out that they do eventually make the Rock a memorial with a little placard and everything. They call it Partisan Rock.
Yes.
Why not Wolverine Corner? Why not?
I know. As they're focusing on the Rock and whatever saying, some jingoistic saying is written there, but of course the music swells.
Yeah. But like I said, never once do you get the feeling that these kids are actually going to win.
No, it does have a very Wild Bunch. Everybody dies in a rain of bullets. At least somebody survives at the end. At least somebody
had to tell their story.
Yeah.
Otherwise, there'd be no tale to tell.
You know what's insane is that after I watched the movie, I Googled Red Dawn, so I could look up some information. And one of the most asked questions regarding Red Dawn is Red Dawn a true story?
You don't remember that? You didn't read that in your history books when Russia invaded in 1984?
Apparently.
A lot of shit happened in the 80s that people just like to gloss over. I think they're still out there. Imagine that. They just set up, we just give them their own town. You're like, yeah, you can keep that little town. Because it was actually filmed in New Mexico. Las Vegas, New Mexico is where it was filmed.
Even the snowy parts?
That's what it said. Okay. I guess I don't know. I also read that when they were filming the paratroopers, about 5 of them after drifted miles off course and landed and had to convince people that they weren't really Russians invading. Imagine that conversation, especially when you're dropping in the state like New Mexico where everyone's carrying. Arizona's right next door. Like, what's that again, boy?
So this was one of those late summer releases where, the movies kind of get dumped at the end of summer. August 10th, it was released in 1984. It cost $17 million to make. It made 38, so it made more than twice its budget. So I'd call that a modest hit.
Modest, yeah.
The Gun Owners of America honored John Milius for dramatically depicting the importance in our time of the Second Amendment.
There you go.
Speaking
did the Russians also give him an honor?
I think they did too. Powers Booth later said that his character was supposed to be the voice of reason in the movie when he first read the script, until Milius got his claws into it.
Now I want you to bang this child. It's going to be awesome. And then you're going to die on the tank, bent over.
Leah Thompson unbelievably says the reason she took the movie was because of the love scene. She says that's the reason, the relationship between her and Powers Booth, that she took the movie, and she was disappointed when it was cut.
This is Charlie Sheen's debut, his feature debut.
And he doesn't have much. He doesn't really have a lot of dialogue.
No, it's funny. See Thomas Howell, Charlie, they're children. They look so young. Like there's times where you can't even tell them apart, especially once they're wearing hats. And like I said, the 2 of them are wearing the same jacket. So, but he sent them to boot camp for 8 weeks. I don't know how well it played out. I mean, they just running through the woods with a gun.
And what's funny is that they look so young, especially Leah Thompson. And it's only the following year that Back to the Future was released. She looks like 5 years older in Back to the Future than she does here.
Right. When she plays Lorraine, she's obviously in prosthetic makeup.
When she's older, yes, when she's older. But even as a kid.
But you know what? Once you put like a 50s style hairdo on somebody, they immediately age 10 years.
Yeah, that could
you put
be.
Like that bouffant type hair.
That could
but
be.
You're right. She's very much a child.
So I had to go back and see, maybe they filmed this in 82 and it didn't come out until 84. No, they filmed it in the winter of 84. So it came out later that same year.
And this was after Ferris Bueller?
No, it was before. Ferris Bueller was 86.
86. Yeah. Dirty Dancing was 87.
Yeah.
So she was coming. Okay, all right. This might have been her first movie. I did see, you want to talk jingoistic. Red Dawn was the code name of the military operation that the government used to capture Saddam Hussein
Really?
in 2003. That was the code name of the operation.
Mm.
Now, you mentioned the remake, which I have not seen. It is on Tubi, I think. Or maybe it's Hulu, one of them. The 2012 Chris Hemsworth. But it's the North Koreans who invade and not Russians. I also read this, which just blows my mind, that General Alexander Haig had a hand in this. He was on the MGM board of directors. Like, you're a military guy. How do you get on a movie board of directors? I guess when you make a movie where the military is involved, they have to have a sign off, right? How they're being portrayed.
I don't know if they got that approval.
We weren't
for
really.
this one.
I don't think they did actually. I think that the military did pull out on this, but you never really see the military. You get a plane flying. You get a plane flying over every now and again, so they're not really being represented at all.
At all. That's probably why they pulled out.
Right. They're like, there's not enough here for us to even. It's like. And the only other thing I saw, which is Milius wanted Robert Blake to originally play the Powers Booth role, so that love relationship would have been really awkward.
He's a creepy guy anyway, so just put him in that scenario. Forget it.
Well, 84. When was Beretta?
Late 70s.
Late 70s.
Yeah, late 70s.
Yeah.
So what kind of buckets would we give?
I went 3. It was fun to watch it again, but again, it's not a fun movie, I guess. It was nice to see it because I do have memories of it. And for some reason, like I said, I've wanted to watch it a couple times over the years. The missus was just like, no way. And now I kind of agree with her. I don't think I need to revisit this.
Yeah, I didn't like it then and I didn't like it now. I'm going to give it 2 buckets.
2. Wow.
Yeah.
John Milius, he's not happy with you.
Conan, on the other hand, great movie.
Oh, absolutely. What else did he do? He did a bunch of other movies. I have a bunch of lists. Apocalypse Now. He was a writer. 1941. He wrote 1941, one of your favorite movies. Yeah. And Dirty Harry.
Wow.
So he had some pedigree there as far as writing goes. So that's it. We're leaving our war movies behind. And we're moving on.
That's episode 4 of Loki, the Nexus event.
Yeah, which one? A couple of them we forgot about. Did I miss an episode? Can I just say that right up front? We're 4 episodes in, and they have 2 episodes ago, Sylvie blew up the sacred timeline. Literally hundreds of little time bombs going off, creating variant streams, sending the TVA in a tizzy. Then we get a solid episode of Loki and Sylvie on Lamentis, literally lamenting the love for each other. Leave it to Loki to friggin' fall in love with himself. And now we come back,
which is perfect. It could have happened no other way.
Yeah,
I would have been disappointed.
Mobius actually calls him out on it. But,
I would have been extremely disappointed if there was no romance between the two of them.
We all have the same likes, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. But this episode, it's not mentioned at all. It's no longer an issue.
Well, unless this is what's causing these other variant Lokis to appear at the end of the episode.
But we see like Mobius is just like kind of like chilling out again. The TVA is just kind of like they're not in the state of like.
Well, weren't they going back and trying to erase those variants she was creating?
So they just went and fixed it in the whole time that they were on.
Maybe they did.
Moon?
I don't know.
But it's not even mentioned. I just thought it was really bizarre. Plus, didn't she have a plan? She said that she had this plan in works for years, and yet just doesn't really seem to know what she's doing now.
No. I didn't really know what was going on.
I know this,
but I still managed to enjoy it at the same time, even though.
You know what I don't like? This is what I don't like, which is we've gone out of our way now to create this really cool idea in the Marvel Cinematic Universe of this TVA, that they're in charge of this timeline. And we are just completely dismantling it in 4 episodes. We've built it up, and then we built it up just to tear it apart. Spoiler, our Time Lords are basically the country bear jamboree. That's That's what they were.
And you called it that Mobius did own a jet ski at some point, and that's why
we
he's
better
obsessed.
end this. We better end this whole show with him on it. Loki laying on the
Yeah.
beach and him out jet skiing. You're like, there you go. Mobius got a jet ski.
And this is what I really wanted to see, what this episode opens with. Sylvie in her alternate reality on Asgard as a little girl.
Yes. Being dragged away by the TVA, but they never explained to her what her crime was. They don't tell her why she's a variant.
Like,
because obviously she was being raised in this world on Asgard. She's sitting there playing with her toys. What was she doing wrong?
Or it's something that she does in the future? I don't know.
Now we're getting a Minority Report. This is going back to the Tomorrow War. I'm yelling at you for something you do in the future that you haven't done yet. The wheels are coming off this for me.
So what we do know from this episode is that the judge character here is kind of keeping everything secret.
What is her name? Raven?
I don't. I just call her the judge. I don't know.
Here comes the judge.
But the judge is telling Mobius that C20, who's the one that we saw enchanted in the previous episode,
is dead.
That she just started spouting gibberish and then she deteriorated.
And we know that's, and even he's like, wait a minute, I just saw her. She was fine. Oh no, she fell apart after you walked away. Sorry, you missed it.
By the way, don't tell anybody she's dead.
Yeah, so they capture them. They because we left last episode. Sylvie and Loki are trapped on this moon. That's it. The arc is blown up. The moon's collapsing, and there's no way off. But somehow, by them holding hands, creates a nexus event that that allows the TVA to find them and save them.
Did they not come into contact at all before that? They were fighting each other, right?
They were fighting each other, but maybe it was
maybe it was the feelings,
the love for each other, the love for myself.
They created their own time branch. I don't know.
Yeah, because you literally saw it spiking, and they're like, oh, there they are.
Going back to her as a little girl, maybe it's not something she does. Is her very existence an affront to the timeline? Is she not supposed to exist? Is that why they take her? You'd think that they would take her as an infant if that was the case.
Right. Yeah. Don't even let her grow up we'll get her in a couple years.
I can't take care of a baby. Let's wait till she's out of diapers.
Right. We don't have a daycare system here at the TVA, but we do get Lady Sif.
Yes, we do. Now, Sylvie is in custody after they're rescued off of Lamentus. Sylvie is in custody, and Loki gets put in a bad memory prison. And the bad memory, I don't know if it's the TVA that chooses the memory or if Loki's subconscious chooses the memory. Because this memory is of Loki mischievously cutting off Sif's ponytail and Sif kneeing him in the groin and punching him, in retaliation. And this happens over and over and over again.
Until he learns his lesson.
I think that if you wanted to punish him, it would be the memory where the Hulk is thrashing him.
That is true.
To and fro.
That would definitely be a more bring the point home. But that is the actress, Jamie Alexander.
Yeah, so she comes back as Lady Sif. Yeah. Mobius says at one point when he's getting particularly frustrated with Loki, we've brought in Kree, Titans, vampires, and it's you that's giving me trouble.
Yeah. So the drop of vampires has got everybody all on a tizzy because obviously that, opens the door for Blade.
Right.
Because we do have Morbius. Yeah. No, Morbius.
You're right.
Yeah, their names are too close. Mobius and Morbius. That's coming. When did they back that up big time?
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't even know when that's coming out anymore.
I think it's next year at this point.
Yeah.
But Mobius, says the same thing that the audience is thinking. What a seismic narcissist. You fell for yourself.
Yeah, which is great.
Yeah. And this is at the point because when Mobius takes him out of his memory prison just to talk to him, Loki tries to lie to him. Mobius lies to him. They're lying to each other to get what they want. And then Loki suddenly explodes with the truth. All the TVA members are variant. You're a variant. You've been kidnapped by the Timekeepers. And Mobius doesn't want to hear it at first, but it nags at him for the rest of the episode.
Yeah, he buys into it a little too easily. Like if this is your life, this is all you know, and someone says, "Yeah, those aren't your real parents." Like oh, they're not. Again, we only got 2 episodes left, so we got to move this along. But so he goes to see the judge and realizes pretty quickly that she's messing with him. Closed case. She wants him to sign off on the case, and he's like, "Wait a minute, what? No, it's not closed." Oh yeah, no, good job. Here you go, sign here. And he steals her time
temporal pad.
Yeah.
And at the same time, Sylvie is convincing B-15, our main soldier, officer of the TVA here in this show, that she's got a past life because she's questioning, when you touched me, I saw
you
something.
did something. Yeah. What'd you
Yeah.
do to me?
Yep.
It wasn't me. That's all in you. So she takes her back to Rock's car, but Judge is having none of that.
Then we get the battle with the timekeepers.
Yep. So we finally take the elevator up to the timekeepers.
But not before Mobius gets pruned, which was
That's
a
right.
huge
Yeah,
moment.
he gets vaporized, pruned, whatever you want to call it. So you've seen that a couple times. You just assume that they're being vaporized. So,
which was sad because Owen Wilson was one of the best parts of this show. So I'm like, oh, we got 2 episodes and I'm not going to see him. But
that's not true.
That's not true.
Yeah, because there's more than meets the eye there. But so speaking of more than meets the eye, so we get up to the Time Lords. Here they are. And they're like, you know what they look like? They look like those dudes from the future in Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. They're right, the big robes and the glasses on. And it's very obvious that these are animatronics. These are fake or whatever. And Sylvie seems to somehow decapitates one of them, and it's a robot. So were these things never in existence? Were they completely fabricated from the TVA to create a narrative?
Is the judge running the show behind the scenes? Don't look behind the curtain, right?
Yeah. So now, right. So now it steps up the stage. All right, who's really running this thing? And that's where you can bring in a King the Conqueror, or you can bring in any of these other time travel characters. I really don't know where they're going with this.
But at the end, Loki himself gets vaporized.
Pruned him.
My jaw is hanging on the floor at this point.
Yeah.
Are we really without Loki? And then the roll credits.
We still have Lady Loki / Sylvie / Enchantress, whatever you want to call her.
But she's got the judge at the end. She's like, tell me everything.
Yeah.
So maybe we'll get some answers.
Two more episodes before we find out.
But at the end, if you stay through the credits because not every episode they try to fool you.
No, it's
not
funny. My son said, make sure you sit through. There's an end credit. There's an end credit. I said, okay, I'll sit through it.
You do sit through these credits anyway because there's things that you can catch even when they're showing.
Yeah, they do.
Names.
They change it up a little bit. The end credit graphics and whatnot.
But Loki wakes up. He's like, "Am I dead? And
am I in hell?" Yeah.
And when you watch the subtitles, it's with one L.
HEL. Yeah.
Yeah.
Asgardian underworld.
Looks at these 3 figures, actually 4 figures that are staring at him.
This was very reminiscent of his scene at the end of Avengers where he's on the floor and they're towering over him. And so because he's laying on the floor and he looks up and what do we have?
And of course your eyes go immediately to the right part of your screen.
Yeah, well, he's the brightest character.
Because he is the classic Loki. And the comics, Loki always had that gaunt, older look.
Yes.
Very evil look.
Yeah.
And of course, we have gaunt, older Richard E. Grant looking very much like the comic book classic version of Loki.
Right out of the comic book costume.
Bright yellow green costume with the Kermit the Frog frill around the neck, the whole 9 yards.
Yep, but that's not all who's there. We got Kid Loki.
We have a little gator Loki.
Alligator Loki. I don't know what's going on there. I don't know if that's like a callback to when Thor was turned into a frog, maybe. I don't know. But there's another one too, and he's credited as being boastful Loki, but he looks like a Neanderthal Loki.
But he's got his own hammer. It looks like a version of Mjolnir.
Thor, yeah. I don't know who that is, and from what I could understand, there is no comic counterpart to that. But apparently, when you get pruned, you are banished somewhere, and this looks like ruined New York City because
if you look past classic Loki's shoulder, Stark Tower, Avengers Tower.
Well, it would. Well, he would know it as Stark Tower because you're still in Avengers timeline. You're not even to Endgame or whatever yet. So I don't know. And that's how and then we cut. So we don't know what's going on. Apparently, he's not dead, and he is now surrounded by a bunch of variants. So would Mobius, if Mobius is a variant, would he end up in a world where he is surrounded by similar Mobiuses?
Or are these things really variants at all? Or just we're looking at the multiverse? Is the TVA a complete construct that is lying when they say that there's variants? Because this can only lead right into the next Spider-Man movie of explaining how Tobey Maguire...
Multi-Spider-Man.
Yeah.
You nailed it on the head with that one.
Because is Tobey Maguire a variant then? You know, is
that would explain a lot.
Yeah.
Andrew Garfield definitely is a variant.
Who's the variant? Is it Tom Holland? Is it
Well,
Andrew Garfield?
Well, that's just it. I think everyone's a variant.
Yeah.
Like there, yeah. If you're dealing with a multiverse, there is no sacred timeline. Everyone's timeline is sacred to themselves.
Yeah, to them that's their time. That's the timeline.
And I think that DC is already going down this road with bringing in, you know, Michael Keaton as Bruce Wayne and some of these other, you know, people who've played these characters over the years as versions of them.
It's just interesting that the movies on both sides are exploring this now. You know, that it's almost like an Armageddon versus Deep Impact. They're both going into their past.
You're making a volcano movie? We're going to make a volcano movie.
Yep.
Yeah. Asteroids.
You're pulling in Tobey Maguire? We got Michael Keaton.
Yeah, exactly. I'll take a Michael Keaton. But we have a Michael Keaton in our universe as well.
Yes, we do. Yes, we do.
You know, I read that the little girl, the actress who played young Sylvie, is the same actress who played young Rey in The Force Awakens.
Really?
Yeah. That's some heavy hitting right there. Huh?
That is.
Yes. I did not write down her name, though, so I apologize.
She's a contract player at Disney, apparently.
There you go. Yeah. She actually, on her off time, she works at the It's a Small World. Right. Yes.
In the Asgard section of It's a Small World?
The Asgard section. They should make that like an MCU version.
They should. They should.
Thanos at the end snaps and you just turn to dust.
With Loki,
so there you go.
Loki leading the karaoke if It's a Small World and Asgardian.
I like it. Yeah. Listen, he buys me a beer, I'm in.
Another
Asgardian lager.
Yeah.
Indeed. So wow, there you go. That was a marathon.
It certainly was.
That scratched our Independence Day itch without actually watching Independence Day.
Have you ever seen the sequel to Independence Day? I never watched it.
I did. I don't think I'll ever watch it again. It was an abomination.
Even for this show?
I would do anything for this show. Listen, some of the stupid movies you guys have forced me to watch, I will never say no for the show. But yeah.
Speaking of movies that we're forced to watch, what are we doing next week?
You are not forcing me to watch this movie. We have been waiting a very long time for this movie.
We have.
And if you've seen any inkling of reactions or reviews, I'm very excited. I don't want to get my hopes up on this, but it's a long time coming and I just want to be entertained.
The first MCU movie full length to come out since Far From Home, right? Am I mistaken about that?
Wow.
I think so. I don't know. We'll have to check that, but I think that's correct. And along with, we're talking about Black Widow, of course. How can we not cover Black Widow on this show? And along with Black Widow, since this is like a spy espionage kind of thing, we've only ever covered one James Bond movie.
Which is bizarre, which is wild.
So this is our second foray into the world of Bond. And this particular movie has a Russian baddie in it. So I figured, hey, it's a good team up with Black Widow. I don't know if we should whisper this title.
I want you to bleep it. I want you to bleep the name. Just
whisper it and giggle it. Octopussy.
What? I just dug up. I was finding all my Marvel adaptations, and I do have this.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now talk about, a summer that had a Deep Impact and an Armageddon, or a summer that had two volcano movies. I don't even remember the names of them now.
Dante's Peak and Volcano.
Octopussy was released in 1983. So the same summer, Sean Connery released the James Bond movie.
That's right.
Entitled Never Say Never Again, which was truly an off-brand James Bond movie. Never Say Never Again was not part of
Never Say Never Again,
the Eon film series. So there were two competing James Bond movies out there in the marketplace. So there was a big deal that you were actually seeing Roger Moore and Sean Connery go head to head in a lot of media and magazines.
But if it wasn't official, how were they even allowed to use the name?
Well, we can talk about it next week. I don't want to get into it here, but
right, cool.
there's a history of Never Say Never Again.
All right. I do want to know this because I was not entrenched in the James Bond world at that time. I do remember it. And it's basically a Thunderball remake.
Yes, it is.
Correct?
It is. Yes, it is.
Yeah, just an older Bond.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I do have some knowledge. There you go. And we'll also be talking about Loki episode 5, and hopefully I will not be as downtrodden as I was about this episode.
It was still a good
fun
episode.
to watch.
It was still
It
fun.
was still fun, but I just feel that there's a lot of stuff that just got skinned over.
Yeah, it was kind of like a filler episode, which is surprising when there's only
Since
6
the
episodes.
episode before was like a filler where they're just sitting around talking
Yeah.
about it to each other. All right, cool. Well, there you go. Happy 4th, everybody.
Yes. Hope you had a fun weekend.
I hope that the weather cools and everyone is not scalding hot here.
So join us next week, Black Widow, Noctopussy.
All right, kids. Thanks as always.
All right.
Enjoy, and we'll catch you here next week.
Bye. Hello, everybody. If you liked the podcast you just heard, then please follow TMI on all of our social media outlets. First and foremost, email us at tmipodcast2018@gmail.com. That is tmipodcast2018@gmail.com.
And you can follow us on Twitter at TMI_podcast2018. Stop over, say hi, give us a compliment. We'd love to hear from you.
Awesome. Make sure you follow us on Instagram as well, which is also TMI_podcast2018.
And of course, we are on Facebook, facebook.com/TMI Podcast 2018. And it should be noted, we also have a community page, so join the forum.
And if you like to watch YouTube, you can see us at TMI Podcast 2018, all one word. Look for the popcorn bucket.
Popcorn bucket. Or you could just go to our website, which has every link there, TMIConfessionalspodcast.com. And we'll see you at the concession stand.
We'll save some popcorn for you.
Didn't you see V, take you into their ship and eat you?